The untouchable True School Sports Empire proudly presents something the boxing game's been missing. Hey, what's going on? It's your boy BT, and I came here to talk some boxing with the thousands of True School Sports subscribers. Now, interesting news coming out of the world of boxing. This one kind of slipped through the cracks. I saw it on Boxing Scene a week ago. I haven't really seen anybody make a video on it, so I figured, you know what? I'll make a video on it because it is quite interesting, and I think it will be something that people will be talking about in the future. Now, it was reported from Boxing Scene on February 22nd that this matchmaker, so there's this matchmaker named Guy Taylor. And Guy Taylor was the lead matchmaker for Roy Jones Jr. boxing for a long time. So, his job being the matchmaker for Roy Jones Jr. boxing was to pretty much match these prospects and build them up into contenders and whatnot. And he did a pretty good job at that. Now, Guy Taylor, he's the head of a new idea, a new concept coming up in boxing. And if many of you remember, 3 years ago, we had the introduction of the World Boxing Super Series. That's been successful. It's been a hit with the fans. Now, we're hearing about potentially another idea that's going to be taking place in April. And it's called the World Cup Boxing Series. So, it's quite an interesting concept. It's basically, from what I've read and from what I can understand, is that basically it's going to be a tournament format. You're going to have fighters fighting on a team. So it's much like the World Cup in soccer. You're going to have, America versus Mexico or England versus Spain or whatever the case may be. You'll have 3 fighters from each country. It'll be a best-of-3 series with 3 different matchups featuring the countries. Now, I like that concept because one thing about boxing is the fact that boxing is a very nationalistic sport. People take pride in their countries. The Mexican fans, they love their fighters. The British fans, they love their fighters. The American fans that like the American fighters love their fighters. So I think it'll be good because it's actually going to use one of the things that we see in boxing, which is nationalism, patriotism, and it's going to use it in a good way. A lot of times we see it in YouTube used in a bad way. Here we see it being used in a good way. So it accomplishes that, and it brings a new element to boxing, kind of like a team aspect and a sense of pride for their countries. And on top of that, it also is good for the fighters individually because the whole point of the tournament is that it's going to have fighters fighting for a top 15 ranking. So if you're a fighter and you're part of the team that's winning in this tournament, you will get a top 15 ranking and a potential regional title fight with the sanctioning body that's on board with the event. Now, there are details still being worked out for this concept. It hasn't been fully ironed out. They're still trying to find a streaming platform. They're trying to get a sanctioning body on board, but it is being put out there now. A guy named Terry Holland, who runs Life Investors Management Company, he's Guy Taylor's business partner, and he's also helping run this tournament. He had some quotes, and I wanted to just read them to you. Wait, was it Terry? I think it was Terry. Yeah, he said he said this about the series. Now, he said, I quote, "There will never be a draw in this series. I absolutely despise when I hear that a fight is declared a draw. Instead, there will be an overtime round. Both fighters will remain gloved up and ready to fight until the commission determines whether there is a winner on the scorecards, if another round is needed to determine one." So, with that being said, this is very similar. We've seen that rule before in boxing. If you guys remember, for those of you who are really up in your boxing, if you remember many years ago when Willie Monroe Jr. won the Boxino tournament, that Boxino tournament had that same rule. So I love what it's trying to do. Guy Taylor also said, and I read Guy Taylor's quote. He said, I quote, "This new series will feature young, undefeated fighters in entertaining, compelling, and competitive matchups. I've been known and sometimes criticized for being overly aggressive in my matchmaking, and maybe so, but I'm giving the fight fans what they want to see, and I'm placing fighters in position to compete and be successful at the next level." So there you have it. That's the concept of the World Cup Boxing Series. So I love what I'm hearing. Obviously, it's not ironed out. It's not finalized. We don't know everything about it yet. But from what we're hearing, it sounds great so far. The fact that it's going to have young, undefeated fighters fighting each other. I mean, what more could you ask for as a boxing fan? Also, it's going to add a new concept of boxing because now we'll see fighters fighting for their countries in the pros, because we always hear about fighters fighting for their countries in the Olympics, but that's the amateurs. And that's, and amateur boxing is a completely different sport from the pros. It's more about scoring points. Body shots don't really mean much in the Olympics. So this is giving that Olympic feel, but in the professional ranks. And I think that's a beautiful thing. I think that's an amazing thing. And as a boxing fan, you can't help but get excited about that. It's gonna be very fun to see, because a lot of times here on YouTube, right? Like I have it in the comments sometimes. We see American fight fans going at it with the British fight fans, and the American fight fans going with the Mexican fans, and the Mexican fans going with the British fans, and things like that. And now this actually gives a platform to where we don't necessarily have to go at each other. We can just get behind our countries and our fighters that are representing our countries, and it's going to be a really good time. So I'm looking forward to seeing what goes on with the series. I'll be following it. There will be team captains for this, so it's going to be something exciting. I can't wait. They're saying that first call will be in April, right? I was reading it's in April. It'll be in April. It'll be taking place in Mexico, and they're looking for a streaming platform right now as we speak. So that's the news, man. There's not going to be any draws, which I love. I absolutely love that. Every fight will have a conclusion. So to me, that's probably the best news, because like last night, right? Last night we watched the Canelo fight. We were live for that. Shout out to you if you joined us. We had that fight with Jerry Forrest and Zhang, the heavyweight fight, and it was a great fight. We had 3 knockdowns from Zhang. We had Jeffrey Forrest rallying and pretty much sweeping the fight from the 5th round on, and it ended in a draw. Like it was such a great fight, but the result was very, very anticlimactic. And it would have been great if they had that rule like they're gonna have in this tournament, where you could have fought the extra round. We could have got a definitive winner. So I love that, man. I absolutely love that, and yeah, I'll definitely be following the developments for this in the future. So yeah, that's the news. The World Cup Boxing Series is coming very, very soon. They're saying April, so be on the lookout for that. We'll be covering it here on True School Sports. Let me know what you guys think about it. Like what do you think about it? What do you think about the whole concept? I'll leave the article in the description so you can read more about it, because it's a lot to take in. But yeah, read it for yourself. Drop your comments down below. Take the time to subscribe. And like I say in every single one of these videos, you can love me or you can hate me, but I'm just a kid from Daniel. So until next time, take care, guys.